Okay, good morning, everybody. As we go to the Chitas of today. Today is Thursday, which is the fifth reading of the portion of Bamidbar. We're holding in Bamidbar, chapter 3, verse number 14. Meidab Hashem Moshe, the Midbar Sinai, God spoke to Moshe Rabbeinu on the mountain in the desert of Sinai, Lamar saying, "Okay, there's been a Levi. Count the tribe, the children of Levi, the Beis Avesam to their father's home, the Mishpachiseim to their families. Kol Zachar, every male, mi ben chodesh ramayla. To count them from a month and above, Tifkadei." Ashi says that the Leviim, when they no longer in the category of a premature birth after 30 days, he's counting when those are called keepers of the holy charge. He's only 30 days old. Yehuda, the son of Shalom said, the tribe is accustomed to being counted from the womb. And it says, whom she bore to Levi in Egypt. Let's talk about Yecheved. And she entered the gates of Egypt. She bore her Yecheved. Yet she, Yecheved, was counted as one of the 70 souls. So we count Yecheved, who's from the tribe of Levi, as part of the 70 souls, even though she was not born yet. She came down to Egypt. She was born in the gates of Egypt. So this is the tribe of Levi is worth to be counted from their mother's womb. Because if you count them, as Rashi says, this is Rashi also in Shemais, for if you count the total, you'll find there's 69. And you need to put Yecheved to be the 70th one. And she wasn't even born yet. She's counted of those that came down to Egypt. And Moshe began to count it on the mouth of God, as he commanded. What does it mean, Api Hashem, on the mouth of God? Now she says, Moshe Rabbeinu is a medrash. Moshe Rabbeinu says to the Holy One, blessed be he, how can I enter their tents to know the number of their sucklings? I'm going to go, how do I walk? It's not the right way to do it. How do I go into everybody's tent to find out how many kids they have? The Holy One, blessed be he, said, you do yours and I'll do mine. Moshe went and stood at the entrance of the tent, and the divine presence proceeded a heavenly voice, said, over here, there's so many babies. And so on. He didn't have to go into the tent, Api Hashem. Just so to say, counted them, each one at their doorway. Verse 17, and these are the names of the Levi sons, Ishmael and their names, Gershon, Kahas, Umaradi. These are the names of the sons of Gershon to their families. Livni Vishimi. They had lived in the family of Livni and the family of Shimi. And then the children of Kahas, Mishpachesam, was Amram. Amram was Moshe Rabbeinu's father. Yitzhar, Vechevre, and Ve'uziel. 4 families. Bnei Merari, and the children of Merari, Mishpachesam, Machli, Umushi. They were very small. It's a small, Levi was a small tribe. Is Levi, the Beis Avesam to their father's house. The Gershon Mishpachas Alivni, Mishpachas Al Shimi. The Gershon Mishpachas Alivni, Eilei Mishpachas Al Gershuni. This is the family of Gershon. What does that mean? That's just to say that Gershon is counted were a Livnite family and Shimei family. Their numbers are so many and so many. What was the count for every male? From a month and above, give us alofim, the 7,000, and 500. Mishpachas Gershuni. The Mishpachas of Gershon, Achra Mishkan Yachnu, their family lived behind the Mishkan, Yama to the west. Nasi Beis Avli Gershuni. And who was the head of the family? Was Eliasov ben Loel. Verse 25, Mishpachas ben Gershon. And what was the obligation of Mishpachas, the charge of the children of Gershon? In the tent of meeting, HaMishkan Vayel was to take care of the Mishkan and the tent, in the tent. Its cover. Umasa Pesach Hayom, and also the screen of the entrance of the tent of meeting. Actually, the meaning of the verse is Mishkan is the lower curtains that covered. Right? Remember, we learned there were 3 covers. So our Mishkan was the lower cover. Now it had the beautiful design. You saw it in the Mishkan. What means the tent is the second cover, which was the Yidis Izin, which was the goat's ear that was made for the garden. No rain should come in. Michseyu, what means its cover, was the third one that was only on top, was the ram skins tchash. Umasach HaPesach, what means the screen of the entrance? There was a beautiful cover, with a beautiful entrance. It was a curtain that was at the entrance of the Mishkan. And they took care of the hangings of the courtyard. And they took care of the screen, the entrance of the courtyard, which is ala Mishkan, which is on the Mishkan, around the Mishkan. Ala Mizbeach, it surrounded the Mizbeach, right? The outside curtain, the courtyard curtain, surrounded the Mishkan and the Mizbeach, outside Mizbeach. It's Miseisav and its ropes, and all its work. As she says, it's ropes to the Mishkan and the tent, but not the courtyard. And that was his obligation. Kohas, and then we went to the family of Kohas. Shpachas HaMamri, Shpachas HaYitzni, Shpachas HaChaveni, Shpachas HaUzedi. 4 families in Kohas. Eila Mishpachas HaKohasi. This is the family of Kohas. Right, so Moshe Rabbeinu comes from the Shpachas HaAmri. Moshe and Aaron. Verse 28. This family, which was made up of 4 families, had Shmeinis Alafim, 8,000, B'shei Shmeis. 8,600. Sherimim Mishmeres HaKodesh. They, the keepers of the charge of holy. Shpachas HaKosi Yarach Ala Mishkan Teimana. Family of Kos shall dwell in the camp of the Mishkan south. Now she says, sad thing was they were near the tribe of Reuven. Since they were the south, they were near the tribe of Reuven, camp in the south. The Gemara says, woe is to his wicked and woe is to his neighbor. This explains why Dasan Aviram and the 250 men were smitten with Kairach and his congregation. That's why Reuven and Kairach got together, because they were neighbors. Kairach, this family, Kahas, Kairach, which was in it, lived on the south side of the Beis Hamikdash, and Reuven lived on the south side of the Beis Hamikdash. So they were neighbors. They sat on the front porch and spoke Lashon Hara. Nasi Bai Sav Mishpachas HaKosi, the head of the tribe of the Kos, Eltzofim ben Uziel, which is amazing, because the Kos was the prize of the family. They got the holy thing. As we'll soon say, they had the obligation of carrying the holy things in the Beis Hamikdash. Mishmaitim, in their charge was Aron, carry the Aron, Shulchan, Amenayda, Amizbaches, Klei HaKodesh. They took care of all the holy utensils in the Beis Hamikdash. Asher Yishar Sabem, Masech, and all the coverings that they use, and the covering of the Holy of Holies. All its work. Now she said, "Masich is the dividing curtain." It's so called the screen dividing curtain. So this was the dividing curtain between the holies and the Holy of Holies. Verse 32. Nasiya al-Beis of Nasi, Nasiya Levi, Eliezer ben Anakai, the head of the tribe of Levi, who took care of he was like the commander-in-chief of this tribe. He was, Eliezer would say he was not a Levi. I mean, he was a Levi, but he was a Kohen. Kudesh Mishmera and Mishmeres HaKodesh, he was in charge of the whole thing. He was appointed ashes of all of them. Regarding God, he was a prince over them. The appointment of all keepers in the charge of all holy. They were all appointed by him, Eliezer, the son of Aaron HaKohen. Verse 33, Merari, Mishpachas HaMachli, and Mishpachas HaMushi. The Merari family had the Shpacha Machli, the Mishpacha. And the Mishpachas HaMerari. This is the tribe of family Merari. Ubugdeim in their counting, Mispakol Zachar, the counting of all males. Miben Chedesh Ramayla, and a month and above, a Sheshes Alafim, Umasayim, 6,200. The seed base of the Mishpachas Merari. The head of the tribe of Merari was Tzuriel ben Avichayel. Ayerech HaMishkan Yachnu Tzafeina, they encamped the north side of the Mishkan. Ubugdudas Mishmeres Bnei Merari, and the appointment of the tribe of Merari, Kasha Mishkan. They took care of the actual walls, the planks of the Mishkan. Ubricha v'Amudav, this was the hardest job, the heaviest stuff in the Mishkan. Adonov v'Kelov took care of all the bars and its pillars and all the work that involved it. Amudei Achotzis, they took care of all the pillars around the Vadineim and all their sockets. They stay and all the stakes, and they stay and all the ropes. Achrein lifnei Mishkan, Kedma, camping in front of the Mishkan. So that they were on the north side. So we have now the front of the Mishkan, the east side. Achrein lifnei Mishkan Kedma, the east side. Who camped in front of the Mishkan? Mizracha Moshe ve'Aaron and Vara. Moshe Rabbeinu was a Levi. Never understood that he camped in front of the Mishkan, together with Aaron and Aaron's children. They were in charge of the sanctuary, Aaron and his sons. To the children of Israel, Azar HaKol of Yumas, and if a non-Jew came in to the Beis HaMikdash, they didn't belong there. Shall die. Ash says near to them was the division camp of Yehuda. So the Moshe and Aaron that were to the east were by the Degel of Machne Yehuda. Next to it can't be Yisachar and Zevulun. The Yehuda, Yisachar, and Zevulun were the neighbors of Moshe Rabbeinu. It's a good to the righteous and good to his neighbor. Because they were neighbors of Moshe Rabbeinu, was engaged in Torah study. That's why the tribe of Yisachar, this was a tribe that was involved in Torah study. They were neighbors of Moshe Rabbeinu. They were in closest proximity to his tent, closest proximity to the Beis HaMikdash. I mean, they had a tent of learning, and they became great Torah scholars. And it says, Yehuda is my lawgivers, descendants of Yisachar, who were understanding of the times, 200 heads of Sanhedrin. And for Zvulun came those who wield scribes and quills. So the great things came out of the tribe of Yehuda, Yisachar, and Zevulun, because they basically were very close to Moshe and Aaron in their camp. Verse 39, the entire counting of the Levim, the Moshe been counted, the Mishpachasem to their families. Every male from a month and above, 22,000. So they were the smallest tribe. Even if they were counted from the rest of the tribes, were counted for 20 and above. This tribe was counted from a month and above, and it was still only had 22,000. Smallest tribe in the Jewish nation. It's dots on the word Aaron. There's dots. You see the word over here. Aaron. There's a dot on each word, on each letter. I mean, to show that he was not included in the sum of the Levium. But Aaron was not counted. Aaron and his sons were not counted and discounted, even though he was for the tribe of Levi. When you count them individual, find that the 300 of the descendants of Gershon was 7,500. The descendants of Merari was 6,200. Why are they not included in the rest with the rest to redeem the firstborn? Because they exempt 273 firstborns who were in excess of the number of Levites for redemption. The counting is not complete, Rashi says. because we have an extra 300 extra. We have an extra 300. So Taylor wants to put the zachars, they redeemed them. They were one for the other. So you had one for the other extra. So you have the extra later on. So the Gemara says, answer 300 Levites were firstborns. It was enough that they were exempt themselves from redemption. That's the point of it. The 300 Leviim were not counted because 300 of them were firstborns, and they didn't need to be redeemed, and therefore they're not counted. So therefore, if you count them all together, you'll see there's 300 more than the actual counting, the complete counting, and that completes the Chumash for 2. Now go to Tanya. They were middle of the 52nd chapter. Alter Rebbe said that Malchus explained that Malchus shines to the world. It's a ray of shine. Shechina is the source. Malchus, which is also called Shechina, is a source of everything, every energy that comes into this world to give life to everything from this world. Comes from a ray, a ray of Malchus. But the essence of Malchus doesn't come in. It's too big, too great. It's just a ray from Malchus. It's a shine. It's an It's like the ray of the sun. That's what Alter Rebbe continues. But the Shechina itself, which is the origin and the core. But the shine of God comes to the world, the Shechina's Gila, in a revealed way, Vihi Makar, and it is the source. It is the source, the Shechina, Malchus, which is the source of this ray. Because the entire vitality of everything in this world, it's only a ray, it's a light. Hamispashit mimena, which comes out of it. As light comes out of the sun. So just like the light that comes out of the sun itself, the earth cannot handle. It's the ray that the earth lives by. It's the ray of Malchus. It's the oil of Malchus that comes down to the world. But Malchus itself, the Shechina itself, concerning the Shechina itself, the source of all vitality, the world cannot endure or receive the light of this Shechina. That it should be able to dwell in this world and clothe itself in the world, the Shechina itself. It's a ray. Unless it's a ray. Only something that comes through a contraction. Something that comes through a malbush, a garment. Why? Why can't the Shechina itself dwell here? Because if the Shechina itself would be revealed in this world, the world would be nullified. The Mekayim, it will be nullified and lose its identity in their source. Like the oil of the Shemesh itself. The oil of Shemesh is only an oil in comparison to the world. But when the oil of Shemesh goes back to the sun, it's bottled. It's totally nullified. Has no existence. It becomes part of the Kadar David. It becomes part of the orb of the sun. There's no, you cannot see this earth that comes down to the world, which is so unbelievable to the world. In the Shemesh, it has no value. It's lost in the Shemesh. At Etzem Guf Hashem Levad, you have the sun. So since the Shekhinah, so too, since the Shekhinah is the source vitality of the whole creation, all of which receives but a ray of the Shekhinah. And if the Shekhinah itself, the actual source, would be manifest, if God revealed the Shekhinah in the world, all created beings will be nullified in that source. Their situation will be exactly similar to the sun or the rain as they are found within the orb of the sun. They are completely nullified. So in order for the Shekhinah to dwell in the world, and it's because it's called Shekhinah, Shekhinah means to dwell. How does the Shekhinah dwell in this world? It must first, therefore, be a garment which serves to conceal the light. The light is there, but it's in a concealed manner. Only then can created receive the Shekhinah and not be nullified of existence. That's the concept of Tzimtzum. The Rebbe is trying to explain us the aspect of what means, the aspect of Tzimtzum, the hiddenness. What manner of garment can possibly conceal the Shekhinah? That's the question. How can you conceal? What can conceal the Shekhinah? What can conceal God? Even the Shekhinah is a part of God, so how does the Shekhinah be concealed itself? So how does the Shekhinah yet itself not be affected by that? How come the garment does nullify to the Shekhinah? How come does the garment not nullify to the ray of God? Ray for the Shekhinah will not be nullified. Since the Shekhinah is the source of all creation, it is of course the source of the concealed garment too. In other words, if the Shekhinah is manifest in the garment, meaning if the garment is enveloped by its source, then it follows that it should be nullified out of existence. Just as the sun rays ceases to exist within the body of the sun, in fact, this would make the garment cease serving as a garment to conceal the Shekhinah. That's a great question. But I have anticipated this question by stating that the garments is God's will and wisdom. The garments is the Torah mitzvahs. That's the source of the whole world. So the Torah, that's why we call the Torah the blueprint of the world, which are enclosed in the Torah mitzvah, since this garment belongs to a plane even higher than the source of the world's vitality, known as the Shekhinah. And it's not nullified by it. This is a powerful concept. So the Eibishter said, I'm going to create in the world a physical thing, Torah, a mitzvah, which is higher than the vitality of the world. That's what you understand what the meaning is, that through the world, God created the world through the Torah. You look, that's what you understand the Medrash, when it says, God looked into the Torah and created the world. Because the world existence is through the Torah. Now you understand why it says, the first Rashi, Bereshis, B'shvil HaTorah, B'shvil Yisrael that keep the Torah. The whole world's existence is because of the Torah and mitzvahs. And the people who keep the Torah and mitzvahs. That's why there's expression in Rashi, in the Gemara, if Chas v'Shalom Yidden stop doing Torah, it's no purpose to the world. There's no need for the world. Because the world's existence only exists through the blueprint of the world, which is Torah. This Alter Rebbe says, in answering by the Alter Rebbe when he says, this the Rebbe says, an answer is answered by the Alter Rebbe when he says, only that is descended by the means of the gradation. This means to say, since God's will and wisdom are found in the Torah and in mitzvahs, descend in the gradation of the worlds, being able to clothe themselves even in material things. They therefore serve as garments to conceal the light of the Shekhinah. That's why the best way for us to connect to God through Torah mitzvahs, through the physical Torah and the physical mitzvahs. Because that was created, so to say, by God himself. to be the garments, the medium, to be able to connect it and not be bottled and not be nullified, because the garment itself is not nullified. Now understand why garments itself is not nullified by the light of the Shekhinah, as well as how created beings can receive this garment within themselves. For it's none other than God's will and wisdom, which is enclosed in the Torah and mitzvahs. And God created these entities, Torah and mitzvahs, to be the garments. Not only the garments to give life to the world, but for us to be able to clothe ourselves in these garments. That's also one reason that Alter Rebbe will explain why our neshamas, why we need to do Torah mitzvahs even for Gan Eden. Because how does a neshama go l'mayla and not be bottled, not nullify itself? Because of the mitzvahs and the Torah that he learned in this world are garments for him in Gan Eden. So the more Torah and mitzvahs that I learn do in this world, especially in Gan Eden, is the concept of Torah. The more Torah I learn in this world, the more my neshama is garmented and has the capability to receive the delight of God in Gan Eden, paradise. Because these are garments. The more Torah I learn, the more garments I put on myself. What kind of garment? I put on myself a garment which is the wisdom of God itself. Or I put on myself a garment which is the Ratzon, the will of God himself, which is higher than the world. Because the Torah and the Ratzon is the purpose of why God created the world. So that's why it's greater than the energy of the world. Because it's the purpose of the world. It's the whole reason why there's a world. That's why, again, the expression, the blueprint of the world. Well, you have expression in the Gemara, and the Torah was before the existence of the world. So which garment, so down to that his words, which garment is able to conceal and close the shtina? Well, he's about to mix his better, and at the same moment, not be nullified by the earth that comes into this garment. Which saying this is something that's higher than the vitality of the world, something that's higher than the vitality of my existence, my own neshama. And that is the Eira Torah. That is the garment. Is the wisdom and the will of God, and so forth, referring to the levels of Bina and Das, which are part of intelligence above, as already mentioned, which is clothed in the Torah and its mitzvahs, and the Gleis Lanu Levanenu, which is revealed to us. We all know the Torah mitzvahs. Torah mitzvahs are such unbelievable garments that everybody can garment themselves in Torah mitzvahs. Everybody can learn Torah. It's not a hidden thing. Not for the VIP, for special people. It's for everybody. Every person, man, woman, and child, can garment themselves with the garments of Torah, with the garments of mitzvahs. So why are the God's will and wisdom and so forth to act like concealed garments for the light of the Shekhinah without themselves being nullified by it? Because the Raisa Mechachma Nafkis. Because the Torah comes from the wisdom of God. The Chachmei Law, which is the supernal wisdom. It's not even higher than the wisdom any man can comprehend. The God, which is higher than the world of Malchus. So Torah comes from a much higher level. Mitzvahs come from a much higher level. As mentioned earlier, Shekhinah refers to this stage of revelation, for which reason it's called the world manifestation, Malchus. And Chachmei Law is entirely beyond the plane of revelation. It is therefore immersed higher than the Shekhinah, it's above. The Torah mitzvah selfless and above. It's interesting, as Alter Rebbe explained in the beginning of Tanya, we call it garments, and they're higher than what a garment is. We're calling it garments, And at the same moment, these garments are higher than the thing of garments. Because that's the Eibishter who can create a garment. Only God can create a garment that will not be nullified by the light that it contains. The Iyu Chacham, which doesn't make sense. And that's why it's Iyu Chacham v'loy b'chachma yediyah. The Eibishter's wisdom of Chachma, the wisdom of Atzilus, which is not knowledgeable wisdom. And then God can create a garment to a light that's within the garment. So the garment is higher than its light. For the garment comes from someplace higher. And Exodus explains something that's higher comes down lower. Therefore, the light cannot come down. It cannot be revealed, but the garment could be revealed. You can see the garment. You can understand the garment. You learn Torah, you understand the garment. You can actually feel the garment when you put it into a mitzvah. The Baal El, because it's higher than Chachma. It's higher than our Chachma. It's a Chachma of the Eibishter. So therefore, it doesn't have to have a rationale. It's what God wants. It's God's wisdom. It doesn't have to have my rationale, my understanding. It's God's understanding. And therefore, God says, this mitzvah, which is physical, is my ratzon, is my will, higher than Malchus, higher than your understanding. So ultimately, whatever you understand, self-understood, it's limited. It's higher than your understanding. And therefore, you should learn Torah day and night. And therefore, you should never want to drop a mitzvah. By that, I'm connecting to a garment. I'm bringing it down in the physical world in a garment that is greater than the light that is contained in this garment. Connecting to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to the will and the wisdom of God that is even greater than the light that it holds. Shabbat Le'el, which is some deep concept, because Shabbat Le'el, as I said previously, that the infinite light is the Chachma. And again, Siddur emphasizes that the Eibishter, based on even the Rambam, that the Eibishter's Chachma is God. Not that you can't separate God from his wisdom. Human being can separate his wisdom from himself. But the Eibishter, he's the knower, the knowledge and knower, etc. The Rambam has said this a million times, it's just hard to understand. But that's the way it is. The Eibishter is his Chachma. Because Chachma, as well as other levels of divine intelligence, such as Bina and Das, are far superior to the level of light of the Shekhinah. They are therefore able to serve as garments. Concealing the Shekhinah without being nullified by the light. How can the divine intelligence serve as a garment? And how can created beings accept this garment? Now the question is, how do we forget about how you connect to the light? How do you have such a garment? How do you put on a garment that is higher than the light and not be nullified? To the garment. The Alter Rebbe tries to explain it to us. It says actually, because this, the wisdom of God, ultimately descended level to level, actually, until this wisdom came into this world. Which is 250 commandments of the Torah. So ultimately, this wisdom traveled from level to level till this wisdom, which is the wisdom of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and the ratzon of the Eibishter, and it came down into not only a garment, a spiritual garment, it came down into a physical garment, into a physical Torah, and in a physical mitzvah. Really don't want to stop here, but this is where it stops. So, Alter Rebbe didn't finish his thought. Question think in your mind, what's the difference between the light that comes from level to level to the Torah that comes from level to level? The neshama that comes from level to level to the concept of this light of God that create the wisdom and the knowledge of God that ultimately comes down from level to level. There has to be a difference between these two concepts. And as the Alter Rebbe will explain, will continue. Ezrat Hashem. You'll have to hold your anticipation until tomorrow. We'll continue the 52nd chapter. Today is the 27th day of the month. This is chapter 120, chapter 134. Chapter 120, chapter 134. If you do those chapters, you would have done the chitas of the day. I invite you all to Midshem at 10 a.m. We're only in the Sikh of the Rebbe. We have to start on time, so I need to leave a little bit early. We'll learn the Sikh of the Rebbe on the portion of the week, a very powerful Sikha, concept of leadership and the way the Torah wants the concept of leadership is based on the Nasiim, leaders of the Jewish nation. This was Pasha. So I invite you all either to Chabad or to Torah or to this Zoom number or Torah Direct and become part of the class at 10 a.m. Wonderful and beautiful.